Welcome once again to my Southern Exposure with myself, Joseph Manuel here, and also Vrajin Reinsing, that little square in the corner that I'm pointing to, that I'm fingering. I give finger like nobody else does. Today is Tuesday, January 26th, 2021, and we have made it through, thank goodness, with the inauguration. What do you got to say, honey? Because this is going to be a really off the hook show. So go ahead. You go ahead and start.
Okay, so I almost can't believe it, really. It's so funny because, like, we were gearing up after Biden and Harris won in November. The whole thing was like, January 20th, hurry up, get here. And it came, and it was a beautiful inauguration. I thought it was just wonderful, considering, we're in the middle of a pandemic and, all of that going on. But I just thought it was great. The poet was absolutely phenomenal. The performers, they did a great job. And then, of course, Biden was sworn in as president. Good old Joe. That's the feeling I get because, he just has that good old Joe feeling. And then Kamala Harris being the first woman, first African-American, and first Asian to be vice president of the United States. So that was historical. And, look, the first day, right after the inauguration, he went to the Oval Office and started signing, executive orders to reverse some of the shit that happened during President Trump's tenure. No, but So anyway, I'm really happy. I especially like two things being a trans woman a lot of things that he's doing so far, but the two things that really stood out to me as a transgender woman is him appointing a transgender woman to a position at the White House, and also him reversing the ban on transgender people in the military. So I thought that those two things were great for me.
I definitely agree, and I think actually, to be a little bit more crass than you are, the shit show's done. So now we'll actually have two adults that are going to do the right thing. But I am going to acknowledge the fact, because I've never been a fan of Mike Pence.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to give him props. He did the right thing. He probably's been doing the right thing for a long time, but he's been doing a lot of bad things too. You know what I mean? But at the end, he did the right thing.
Yeah, definitely.
He going to the actual inauguration, standing there, basically, probably I would think, as a closeted gay man, very happy that Lady Gaga was 5 feet from him. So I would presume that.
Man. Oh my God.
I'm just saying. It's not like it's a secret. There's photos of him from when he was 20, and he was mother freaking fine when he was in his 20s with a crop top shirt. So it's not like it's a secret. But anyway, so I would think that everyone, exactly, everyone can pull it up. Everyone's seen it. But I think that it was very appropriate that he did the right thing. And I think it was very appropriate that Kamala Harris did the right thing too, where the actual pageantry, I think that's the best word to use. I think pageantry. Like, the pageantry is that the vice president who's leaving and the vice president who's coming in they both get into the same vehicle and they leave. And the new one is basically wishing the other person well, and they leave. So I like the fact that both of those people participated in it. I really don't give two rats ass about the Orange Monster who had to fly down here with his last free airfare miles to come down to the state of Florida. And I really hope that we can, somehow evict him from the entire country. But I mean, I get it that you got 70 million people that are white supremacists out there. So they're going to try to keep making that ball roll forward. And from what I understand, there's like a new office and this and that. I think it makes it a lot easier, though. With the new impeachment, it has to be done. It has to be followed through, because we cannot allow anybody, no matter who it is, even if it's an LGBTQ person, if they tried to do this shit, I'd still be pissed. I don't care who you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care I don't care at all. Like, if you try to do this shit to the people of the United States and create a coup or an insurrection, or maybe we should say it, a bad Viagra pill, because it didn't actually erect, it kind of fell. And now all of them are probably dropping the soap in prison together. So have fun in jail, boys. Anyway, but I'm just saying, like, it's not right. It's not right what happened, and we have to hold them responsible. What do you think about that? Because this is actually kind of a big deal.
Well, it's not right. And I was telling a friend the other day, I said, a lot of these Republicans, they put party over country. And I'm a Democrat, but I'm going to tell you, if there was a Democratic president that was acting the way Trump was acting, I'd be damned if I supported him because I'm a Democrat. Fuck that. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's about taking each person individual for their content of character. So this whole thing of party over country, I just think it's totally wrong. And those 70 million that voted for him, or 70 something million, yeah, a lot of white supremacists, but some of them are Hispanics down here in South Florida that have been like, they put out the welcome wagon for him. Well, and white folks too, but I'm saying, like, it really perplexes me when someone of color is like so supportive of someone like that. And yeah, so there's a word for that, the House N-word. But anyway, so I just, and you saw them on the news, they are still very, very supportive of this man. And also they want to name a street, not a street, actually a main roadway after him down here. I saw that on the news yesterday. They're trying to work to get that done. So it's going to be Trump Boulevard or something like that. I'm like, oh my God. And talk about like pariah, like a praised pariah, because, like to many of us, he's a pariah. But then there's a good number of people that praise him. So yeah, it's crazy. Still crazy.
Well, I mean, maybe they can name the road around the prison that him and his whole entire family get moved into. They could call it Trump Circle Drive. So, I mean, it could basically spiral down to hell for all I care, to be honest with you. But there are some privileges that do come to previous presidents. And actually, I did a little bit of research about it. Every single president in the United States, they retain at the cost of taxpayers, you and me, everybody else out there, they retain a security force that takes them where they go. They are not even allowed to drive a vehicle unless it's on their own property that they own.
Wow.
They can no longer drive a vehicle. So, and the only way Sorry about that, Nancy. Nancy obviously agreed with me because she's clapping in the corner.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I had to get my Bernie on the shelf.
Bernie. Oh, that was priceless. Bernie in the chair
Good job.
with gloves.
We'll get into that, the humor of. We're gonna get into the humor of this stuff because actually, it's finally nice that we can have fun and joke about politics now that we have a normal person who we can joke with. Seriously, like I'm sure Joe Biden would he'd get a kick out of it. He might not like it because I tell him, you know, he's got to cut that one wild hair off. But I mean, I'm sure he'd probably laugh and be like, oh yeah, maybe I do need to. Or maybe Kamala, I'd be like, well, why don't you wear a little bit more pumps instead of the tennis shoes? Because we want you to look sexy, but not too sexy. But I mean, I think it's nice that we're finally getting to the point back to like normal.
Yeah.
Like we're starting to come back. We're just starting to come back to normal. You're supposed to make fun of the person who's in charge. You're supposed to poke fun at what they do. And it's supposed to be like a tit for tat. And it's humor, but it's not evil. And then we went from evil, which was the last 4 years. And now we know we've got at least another 4 years, or who knows how long, until he dies of a heart attack or possibly chokes on a steak or gets syphilis or God knows what, Donald over at, who knows? I mean, he could get anything. So, I mean, if you order brides from Russia, you don't know what you're going to get. So anyways, the thing is, like, whatever's going to happen, it's costing us money. He gets to have, believe it or not, a library in his name.
Okay.
A library for every single president.
Wow. Now,
the ironic thing, and it's probably going to be close to his little domain, unless we can ship him to Uranus, which is where I think he should be. But it's going to be a library to him, and he and his entire entourage get a security detail for the rest of their lives. So we're all paying for that shit.
And so,
like, you can't have an insurrection. Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to ask you. So let me see if I got this clear. Once you are president, you can never drive yourself anywhere alone again. Wow.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And you know,
can never drive yourself anywhere, and unless you have like a property like George W. Bush, because they have like a ranch that's a really big one. So he drives himself around, but that's you can't drive yourself. I mean, because I guess apparently that's considered the most dangerous thing to do is driving.
Well, it makes sense, and my ring. Yeah, it makes sense because imagine you're president and you have no security. Nancy Pelosi. You have no security, and you know you're a target, and you're a target to be kidnapped and tortured by some other foreign government or enemy of our country for information. So I think it boils down to like security for America. But yeah, to think like you could be a horrible, absolutely horrible president and get that benefit, you know? So.
Well, I mean, I don't like the idea that you should be able to be entitled to things if you do something like what happened. Mm-hmm. What happened needs to be addressed, and it's not we're adding fuel to the fire. Because I heard that feckless. I'm not going to use his name, but I'm going to say feckless, and we all know the second word. Rubio. He was like, well, we're just adding fuel to the fire by pushing forward with it. There is no fuel to the fire. The fire was already lit 4 years ago. And what you're doing right now, from my perspective personally, is you should be removed from office because we have to hold people responsible for what happened because we can't have this happen ever again. Yeah. It never should have happened in the first place. And the reason why it did happen is because of the people who were sycophants and they wanted to go ahead and wag their tongue straight up his fucking orange keister. They had to suck up to him, and I think that all of these people need to be held responsible, and we can't let off the gas. From my perspective, whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, Episcopalian, Greenpeace, whoever it is that's connected with this, we have to focus and we have to fix this problem. And knowing the fact that now that there's an actual quote unquote office that they're perpetuating the exact same thing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, if he wanted to, him and his family could really start their own party. They have enough followers, 70 million people. That's enough to start your own party. I mean, there's a little over 150,000 of 150 million registered voters in our country. And so that's almost half, almost, not quite.
Right.
So, that's enough to start a party. And I could see it become like the Trump party, and it would be like, him, and then we don't live forever. So when he goes, then one of his sons and their sons or daughter, and so on and so on. So yeah.
No, I mean, I do see that, and I understand that, and that's what I'm saying. The importance of of squashing this has to be done. We have to do it as quickly as possible. And anybody who's going to support that kind of behavior, no matter if you're Democrat or Republican, I really don't give a flying fuck. I really don't. I don't care. So whoever's doing something like this, they need to be held responsible. We're talking about people that were in the Capitol, that worked there, and they let the people into the Capitol the day before.
Well, you have to really wonder how deep this goes, because there was talk about some of the senators being involved in it, like some of the people in the Capitol, representatives and stuff. I don't know. Don't quote me. It may have not been senators, but I think it was some of the representatives were involved in it. And I mean, so I mean, come on. It runs deep. It runs deep, and you have to really take a good look at this, because I think as a country, we all really need to do something about what happened, because we don't want it to happen again. And a lot of it, for the white supremacist, racist people, they're fearful, because the reality is, in about 10 years, white people will not be the majority in this country. Based on population statistics, it will be Latino people. There'll be more Hispanic people in this country than white people. And so that says a lot. Now, I know some Hispanic people identify as white. I think it depends on bloodline, because, yeah, right? Yeah, you do. But I think it depends on bloodline, because, Spaniards come from Spain, so they're white, right? Okay, they went and they have, Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Central America and South America. But over all the many years, the bloodline, that Spaniard bloodline, has gotten really diluted with indigenous blood and African blood. So you will see some Hispanic people that look very white, which to me means that probably their bloodline stayed pure from the Spaniards that came over. But the ones but I would say the majority, or a good percentage of Latino people, you can look at a Latin person and they don't look white. They don't look white.
Yeah.
They may have some features, but they're I call it swirly. That you can see there's a mixture of indigenous and also sometimes African blood. So yeah. So that's but the thing is, like someone like Ted Cruz, right? He can pass well, I say pass for a white person, like because
Yeah.
really, I think he's half white anyway.
Hmm.
And then no telling how much white blood from the Hispanic side he got. So he can really do that, and he acts like a lot of these white supremacist people anyway. Like so it just gets so convoluted. It gets so convoluted, but yeah, yeah. Because you identify as white, but you don't look white to me. You
No,
don't. You don't. I mean,
no, I know. No, I know. I know. I totally look.
but you don't look black either. You look
No.
like the
Yeah.
typical what people typically identify as Latino, as like as a Latino. That's you have that look. You have that look, and it's a very nice look. As a matter of fact, white isn't always right.
Well, thank you very much for that compliment, by the way.
Well,
The interesting thing that you said about what you just said, though, is that I find that's really interesting is I can look at a person who is Puerto Rican, and just by looking at their eyes, I know that they're Puerto Rican.
wow.
Just by
Okay.
looking at their eyes,
You
I'm
know
like,
that
oh,
Puerto
where are
Rican.
you from? Yeah, but I mean, the interesting thing is, like, I grew up in a very white household that was very, I mean, um, I'm going to choose my words properly. It was, I grew up in a very white household. Let's just say it that way. And I've worked on, I didn't work on it, but seeing that kind of a household, I reacted differently in a way, but I retained some of that, like looking down on others
Let
if
me
you
tell
weren't
you.
white.
Let me tell you. It comes down to nurture, nature versus nurture, versus nature. Because
Yeah.
if you took a kid from Liberty City, a black baby from Liberty City, they were just born, and you flew them to China, right? And they grew up in China, speaking Chinese, writing Chinese, in China, submersed in Chinese culture. Culturally,
Yeah.
they're Chinese. Now,
Yeah.
genetically, they would be of African descent, but culturally, they are Chinese, and so
Yeah.
I believe that culture, that nurture, plays a very, very, very big. It plays a big part of what and who a person is. It really does. It plays into that because you can have
Yeah. I
some.
mean, it was,
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I agree with you completely. I mean, like, it was me and my two brothers, and then it was the Rodriguez family. I'm sorry for saying her name out loud in Sheffield Lake from a long time ago, but it was me and my two brothers and the Rodriguez family, and then it was the Joneses. And when I say the Joneses, it's Tammy Jones. God bless you. I hope you're still alive. So it was like one black family and two Latino families in an entire city
Tama Jones.
of less than
Wow.
two. Yeah, Tam. Oh, I loved her. She was the sweetest thing in the world. But I'm just saying, like, we grew up in white America in a small town, and being gay wasn't even something that even people talked about,
Yeah.
like, at all. And if they did, they made fun of being gay. And then it made you feel bad if you were thinking like that. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I understand what you're saying when you identify with things. So I mean, the good thing is now that I'm older and much more wiser, and have so much more experience with things, that's part of the reason why we do the show. And I do want to do a shout out to Gay Dallas. Gay Dallas is a new group that I actually created for the city of Dallas, and I also created one for Nevada as well on Facebook. because for social media, I should just say. And the reason why I did it was that the other Dallas social media page kept, well, they didn't stop me from posting things, but they just started to do it. And I really didn't think that that was appropriate. So I basically said, fuck you, I'll create my own. And then the same thing with Nevada, Phoenix, Arizona. So I created 2 brand new pages because I think that it's really important that we're all able and capable of saying whatever we want to. We don't have to agree, but we should be able and have the ability to voice our opinion. And I don't like the idea of people not being able to voice their opinion as long as it's not violent or doesn't incite violence.
Yeah.
Like that's my caveat. That's my cutoff. Like you can't, it's not right for somebody to go out and say, let's storm the Capitol. That's not right. You shouldn't do it. So, and you should be sitting behind bars, as far as I'm concerned, in a prison somewhere for the rest of your life. Well, 2021, orange and orange. I said it. I've been saying it ever since 2016. So, and I definitely believe that it's definitely going to happen. So, but it's one of those things where it's a blessing to be able to do what we do. I think, Raji, it is. It is a blessing.
It is. It really is. Yeah, that whole thing about culture, because it's like you grew up. It's funny how like you grew up in a predominantly white environment where you were probably like you stuck out like a sore thumb in the sense that your look didn't look like a lot of the other people around you, right? So I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Philadelphia. When we moved in, it wasn't. It was actually Jewish. But Jewish and Black, like the upper class to middle class Black families were moving into the neighborhood, and the Jews were moving further out into the suburbs, because the area of Philadelphia that I grew up in is called Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill area of Philadelphia. And it's, when I was growing up, especially, it was considered like the bougie area, like not quite the suburbs, still Philadelphia, the city, but like heading out that way. So for me, right, even though I'm a person of color, I stood out too, because I didn't look like the many of the other Black folks around me. I looked very different in the sense that I didn't look white, but I didn't look specifically Black either. It was like that, like, what are you? What are you? Like, I don't like, what are you? that type of thing. And so you see, same experience, but different too at the same time. You were in a predominantly white, and I don't know if you got picked on because of the way you looked. You may have not. Me, I did.
I did. Okay. Oh, I absolutely did. Oh my Lord, Jesus. Are you kidding me? I get picked on all the time. People pick on me. And because I was small. I was small and I was underweight and I had a really high voice. I was a ultra soprano until I was 18 years old.
Oh my Lord, honey. Well, I know they fucking ran you through the coals, because, honey, not only did they pick on me for not looking, calling me half-breed or wannabe or zebra or all the different names, but added to that, they called me faggot. Let me stop. Listen.
Well, no. The funny thing is one of my favorite things that I remember when I was growing up, and it actually sunk into my head. And this is just a letter opener, just for everyone to know. I usually have the letter opener in my hand all the time. When I was a kid, you know what this is like because you got a big booty. I've always had a big booty for some reason. I've always had a lot of junk in my trunk. And when I was younger, my hair was a little bit longer, like shoulder length-ish.
And you had that high voice. And you used to walk around like this.
And I had a high voice.
I used to walk
Exactly.
this.
That's actually correct. That I didn't do that exactly, but the part is I remember going to the shopping plaza and going to the bank or dropping off, I think, videos, VHS videos somewhere, and then leaving the store. And then as I was walking to come home, some gentlemen, some men, started honking and they were like whistling at me. And I was like probably 15, 16 years old.
And you were like,
and I turned around and then they saw my face and they're like, oh, you fucking faggot. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I looked like a girl from the back. My butt was moving. I was kind of effeminate.
And you know what?
I mean, and it.
You know what kills me?
Yeah.
They got mad. Okay, so okay, before they knew you were a guy, they were all like, whoa, woo, whistling. And when you turned around, then it turned to hate. And they wanted to get mad at you because their dumbasses were looking at your ass and getting all horny. You know,
I know.
Like blaming you for that. That's not your fault.
I know.
You had the ass that you had, and you were just walking home from putting the videos in the thing, and then they want to, you fucking faggot, you fucking asshole, because you shouldn't have been.
Well,
yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, but the interesting thing is that the guys were so handsome, even though they said it.
They were so handsome. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was like, well, I guess I am. Let's go. Like in my head, I'm like, okay, now I know I'm done.
You would have been, you would have been like, oh, I'll be your faggot. Ooh.
Right. But isn't that crazy that kind of crap happens, and it still does today, but people don't want to talk about it.
And let me tell you, just to clarify for anyone that's watching, faggot is a slander, just like the N-word, right?
It's a cigarette, by the way.
Yeah, and it really means, you know, cigarette. In England, that's that's like the slang term for it. But really, what faggots mean in the dictionary, if you look it up, it's a bundle of sticks. That's what it means. And you know where they got that name from? Because in England, when they accused a man for being gay, at one time they would burn them. It was during the whole witch thing, and I think it even happened here, where they were, you know, like people that were spiritual and weren't following the church, they would call them witches and warlocks and burn them at the stake. Well, the same happened to gay men that were accused of being gay. And the reason why they got the name faggots is they put them on the bundle of sticks to burn them. So you know, so that word it's a slanderous word. It's just like the N word, but we can use it because we can. Yeah, we could use it because it's like by us using it, we're taking power back. Now, if someone that's not LGBT uses it, then it's like that's like fighting words. But like I can say faggot and it's nothing because I'm a tranny faggot. No, let me
you know what? One time, I'm gonna share a little story. My partner might get mad if I do, but it's fine. And at some point this season, you will actually see my partner on camera once I guilt him into getting on camera. But we were riding our bicycles. We went to the beach, and I had drank too much orange juice.
Yeah.
I drank too much orange juice that day. And long story short, these people like swooped up the side in their car, and I think I gave them the finger. I was like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Because they would like came right up against me. And then they said that word at us. And I have no idea how, but they slashed his leg with a knife. With a knife, they reached out the side of the car and slashed him with a knife. And he somehow on the bicycle while bleeding chased them down in their car. They couldn't even get away from him. He was like Speed Racer. Like he chased after them, and it took me like 10 minutes to catch up to him. Like I had to keep trying to follow him and everything else. But that word is definitely a very powerful word. And you and I had a conversation about using words properly earlier this week in a private conversation. And what you said definitely hits home for me, because sometimes when I have a conversation with you, we have a complete conversation back and forth between the two of us. But sometimes the words that I might use on this show, they might confuse people. And I don't want that to happen. I want to make certain to let people know that there's a lot of good in the world. There's a lot of good things, and everyone can do good things, but we can't candy coat the shit. I mean, we're talking about, in the state of Florida, over 25,000 people are dead just from the coronavirus in less than a year. And we're talking about these numbers for the entire country. Someone dying every 30 seconds, and it's probably going to increase. So, but the power of the words are very important, like what you said before earlier.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, that's just like the N word. Black folks can use that word, and it doesn't really have any power per se. I personally don't go around saying faggot, faggot, faggot. I don't use the word a lot, but like for me to use it, I'm not using it in a hateful way. It's like we're having a discussion. Whereas people that aren't LGBT, when they use it, 9 out of 10 times, it's in hate. There's a hate energy behind that word. And so that's what I mean. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you completely. And the best thing about it is, guess what? The worst thing you're going to do is use that word, because we have been fighting our entire lives. So we will be ready to fight. And actually, it's interesting that you said the N word, because I think one of the most funny videos I've seen in the last 2 months is the guy that goes into the grocery store, the white supremacist, and he uses the N word. And someone put the video of the guy smacking him in the face with a can of beer. And then they added music to it. So this white supremacist guy uses the N word. The person who happens to be a person of color is standing there, and his wife has pulled out her phone. Is like, oh, this is not going to end well. She started videotaping. She's like, oh, this is not going to be good. She's like, oh, I'm going to start videotaping. And then he picks up his can of beer, just like this one. He drops it. He's like, oh, he had to collect himself so he could at least pick up that can of beer. And he's like, the white supremacist guy said, go ahead and smack me. And then he's like, okay, and hits him right in the face, which I think was absolutely freaking hysterical. And they put music to it. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name of the song, but he said, smack me. And it went, and he hit him right in the face. So I don't like violence. I don't think that it's right to get to that point, just to make that clear. I think we can always use words instead of reacting physically to somebody. Yeah. I think that's what makes us human beings, like across the board. But some people, even though they're human beings, they're not humane.
That's true.
Like they only respond to hostility because that's all that they put out. So, but that little, what you just said about the N word made me think about that story, and I want to tell everyone at home to Google it, or search for it because it's absolutely hysterical. It's not quite as funny as Bernie on your shoulder.
Oh my God. And you never know what's going to go viral and I mean, he put on those gloves, those mittens, I guess they were mittens, right? Yeah. And I mean, he was just doing it because he wanted to stay warm. I don't think he intentionally planned any of this crap. And but it's good crap in the sense that people have just been having fun with it, and I think they're even doing some things for charity with it too, because they did a doll. Look at him, but it was so funny how he was sitting there at the inauguration in the chair with his arms like kind of crossed and the two mittens up like. That was
all joking aside, like that's the part that makes it fun, and then he's receptive to it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's receptive to it. He's like, okay, let's have some fun. Let's do some of this. I guess apparently his campaign, quote unquote, whatever, his support staff. I guess that's the correct way to say it. They actually are starting to sell sweatshirts with the Bernie photo on it. And like what you just said, there's a lot of the money that's actually going to feed local families or homeless people, or I can't remember exactly what the organization is, but all the money is going to help something.
To charity,
to a charity, exactly. But I must admit, I think as soon as I saw him walk, because I was watching the inauguration, as soon as I saw him walk by, and he was just like walking by with his hands like hand over hand, and he had his mask on, and he was like kind of hobbling around. And I'm not poking fun, but I mean, it was kind of funny to look at. It almost looked like a cartoon character, to be honest with you. just like Joe Biden. I love him. I think he's great. I just wish he'd trim up that one hair, that wild hair. And Joe, eventually you're going to have to do it, or else I'm going to go up there to do it for you. But I think it was humorous. And then, to be honest with you, I was like looking at the gloves. I'm like, the first thing that popped in my head is going to sound bad when I say it, but I have a filter. I don't have to use it. The first thing I thought about was, why doesn't he have nicer gloves? But then I was like, those look like those are homemade gloves. Like as I was looking at him walking by with his gloves, hand over hand, I was like, those look like those are hand crocheted. Are those hand crocheted? Where did he get those from? Who made those? I want to know where he got them. They look really comfortable. Like I had all these different thoughts that were going through my head as we were looking at this big giant screen of stuff going on. I was like laser focused on Bernie Sanders. So everyone's feeling the burn this week.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes homemade is better than designer. I mean, I'm sure those gloves look so cozy. They look like they were just so nice and comfortable and cozy. I mean, so and listen, it was made. I think of there's a woman in his city, if I'm not mistaken, that makes them and sent them to him. And so yeah, great. It was really great. You know what else struck me this weekend was when they said, changing subjects, that a person in our country every 30 seconds is dying of COVID. I couldn't believe that. I just like.
I mean, yes. I mean, it is. It's scary. We touched on it briefly earlier, but it's a fact. It's not something that's hard to believe. It is the truth. It's just scary.
Well, it's scary. It's hard to believe for me. I just can't. Like right now, I don't know how long how many minutes we're in on the show, but if that's true,
yeah.
You know how many people have died in like the last 15 minutes? I mean, that's like a little unbelievable. I mean, at least for me it is. But yeah, it's scary too. And hopefully, though, this vaccine hopefully will get out there eventually, and we'll get the herd immunity and everything. But that was another thing this weekend that kind of struck me. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people, and every 30 seconds. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's a harsh reality, Raji. It is. It is just a hard. It's one of those things where you've had bad things happen to you, and I've had bad things happen to me, and everyone else who at home has had bad things happen to them. I would presume or assume. Um, it's hard to accept the bad things, but you can't move forward, I don't think, unless you acknowledge the bad things,
Right.
because they're not going to go away.
Yeah.
They're not going to go away. They're going to still be there. So my concern for you, like every conversation that I have with you, is that you try to be safe, try to put on a mask, try to wipe your hands, try to not go anywhere, just like me. And Rick and his mom, we don't go anywhere. We don't leave the house unless it's a safe and secure situation. And we don't, I haven't been to a nightclub or a bar since, good God. I think maybe the end of 2019 was the last time he went somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before this whole mess even started. I mean, the last time I went out to eat, physically out to eat, I think the last time I went out to eat was back in February or March. Because I was noticing and paying attention to things. Mm-hmm. And this is a good segue to actually get into the numbers here. These numbers don't look good. I'm just going to hold them up. And everyone who's going to judge me for my biting my nails, I don't really care. I've been doing it my entire life. So I know they look dirty. I've been working outside and doing a whole bunch of concrete work and everything else. So get over it. But to segue into this, back in March is when the numbers got up to like to the 2,000 mark. Now we've been over the 2,000 mark since, unfortunately, December 3rd, December 4th, which my birthday is December 5th. So it's kind of frustrating that that's right when we started to get over the 2,000 mark. So we've basically December to January, we've been well over the 2,000 mark of people dying every single day. And 2,000 people divided by how many hours equals that 30 seconds. That's the numbers.
Yeah. Well, I Googled, I was just curious. I was like, how many people die of the basic flu every year here in America? And it came up on Google since 2011, the average has been about 67,000. So last week, I forgot what day it was, made a year since COVID, the first COVID case in this country. And we're over 400,000 deaths from that. So that's like how many times more than, the average amount of people that would die from the flu. And even if, let's say, some of those cases were the flu, which, I doubt, you take away 67,000 from over 400 and something thousand, that's still a lot of freaking people. That's over 300,000 people. So it's, it is serious. I'm just hoping, that we're kind of working towards, even though it's really bad still, that we're going to get eventually to the light at the end of the tunnel, and all we can do is just try and be safe,
No, I agree with you. I mean, I definitely know and feel that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. I know, I see it, I feel it. I surround myself with it, and also you do, as well as a lot of other people. But but it's one of those things where I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I can't just like sweep the dirt under the rug and think that it's going to be okay, because it's not. I mean, unfortunately, that little graph that I'm showing people, that's not a stock market price. Those are people's lives.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
these are people's lives. This is not you buying Bitcoin or Tesla or Uber Eats. This is people's lives. And I don't understand. Like, I drove down to go to the grocery store the other day, right in the neighborhood, and I don't care if I piss you off if you own a business in Wilton Manors, to be honest with you, because if you're doing the stuff that I think you're doing because it looks like you are, then I really don't care about your opinion. I don't want you to advertise. I don't want to have anything to do with you. The part that I have the problem with is I've seen so many people just flagrantly disregard social distancing, mask wearing. People are walking in and out of places, and strip clubs are open, and rub and tugs are open, and everyone in the gay neighborhood knows what rub and tugs are. So you get a rub and you get a tug. But it's one of those things where it's kind of humorous to talk about it like that, but I don't understand the motivation, because if you're putting your employees at risk and you're putting your customers at risk and they get sick, how do you think you're going to make money? That's my question to you, Rashi. Like, I don't understand what people are thinking. Like, they're not thinking about the long-term plan at all. They've just given up because they're just trying to get their, $5,000 a week coming in from their bar sales or whatever. Like, I don't understand this. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and I don't even feel like I even should wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little perplexing to me because when we shut down last year in March, there weren't as many people dying than there are now. But I think what happens is that, like when something first happens, people are all like, oh my God, and this and that and the other. But then after a while, people start to get complacent, and it's like, oh, tired of dealing with it, and all sorts of things happen. But I think the complacency definitely plays a big role. And so fast forward to almost a year later from when we initially shut down, uh, I think that the attitude is, yeah, people are dying, but we're not going to shut down. We can't afford to shut down, and that's where the money driven, like the drive of money and survival kind of supersedes people's lives. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to. Uh, I understand about carrying on because let me tell you, those rents on Wilton Drive are not cheap. Okay. And I'm sure that, if they're not pulling in that money, they won't be there as a business either after a while. So it's a bit of a tug of war. What I noticed initially when businesses started to open up again was that they were doing the takeout thing, which I thought was fine. Because I did that. I went to TJ's. Shout out to TJ's Thai and Japanese restaurant. I love them. They are so good. I enjoy the food there.
Me too. I love TJ's too.
Aren't they so good?
Yep.
But they were doing the takeout thing, which I was like, that was perfect for me. I went a few times and got some food. But recently, I was walking out on the drive, and I passed a number of restaurants, and they had indoor dining, and those restaurants were packed. And it struck me. I said, wow, I wonder. It just really struck me. I was like, You know, it's really, really, they're really packed. I was surprised. Now I understand when they first opened up, they were doing the indoor dining and like spacing it and only doing, I think, like 25% capacity of, as opposed to 100%. And that, to me, that was okay. That was okay. I mean, that was still kind of risky, but not as bad as it is now. Those restaurants were packed. So anyway, Lord knows what's going to happen. I think the jury is still out on this, um, but all as from my perspective, all I can do is try and be the safest as I can be, keep a positive attitude. In order for me to move forward, I have to have some sort of positive attitude going on with me, and just move forward and hope for the best. But yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about something real positive.
Sure.
That you're a beautiful person. That's as
Oh.
positive as it can get.
Oh, okay.
And that we have close to 90,000 people who've watched our show,
Yay!
which is nothing in comparison to your numbers because you are through the roof with your fanciness and your bubblicious attitude and your dirty videos that you share.
All of this and all
Your
the
Rajuliciousnism.
and all the antics that I do, and yeah.
Yes. And if someone wants to contact this beautiful woman, her name is Raji at mysouthernexposure.site. You can email her directly. You can contact me, the little bossy one, Joseph at mysouthernexposure.site. If you want to work for us, it's work at mysouthernexposure.site. If you want to advertise, you can advertise at mysouthernexposure.site. We are in over 30 different groups, or I should say 25 states, all across the United States, and then also Puerto Rico, as well as Canada and Mexico. So you can definitely contact us and let us know. You can definitely let us know whatever you want to do. I can do it. Oh,
that means you're a true Latino. You can do.
Oh, honey, I've been able to do that my whole life. I've been able to do that.
You were born like that.
Yes, I was born like that. I don't know. For some people, I guess it's hard for them to make that noise.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. But I can do it.
We're both doing it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny. It's kind of like saying, fa la 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 la.
Yeah.
And then if you go to some restaurants, it turns into something else, which is funny from My Christmas Story. All right, so let us switch gears here onto something completely different, because I want to talk about, I don't have the photos, but I want to talk about doing home gardening and growing your own spices and herbs and plants and that kind of stuff. We have a indoor growing area for our butterflies, which
so beautiful.
It's I mean, seriously, like if I feel bad, all I do is go out into the garden and look at these things. And I think I sent you a video or a picture, or no, I have to upload the video. But having a butterfly garden, I think that might be the whole reason why I'm okay right now, to be honest with you, because it's so simple. And talking about transformation, just as well as I do, especially you do, more so than I do, about transforming into your true self, just like myself. Everyone goes through that transformation process. But what do you think about that whole situation? Because we've talked about it privately about the butterflies and everything else before. So, are you interested? Do you want me to get you a butterfly bush?
Oh my God. Well, I tell you, I think they're absolutely beautiful. I took a trip to Butterfly World the beginning of last year, and before everything all went haywire. And it was just so beautiful. All the different types of butterflies. They're just so gorgeous. And ironically, they only live a month. Um, there's a few I think that said live longer, but I don't think it's more than like a year or two. But for the most part, on the average, most butterflies only live about a month. And for me, what butterflies represent is kind of like a reflection of metamorphosis. And, us trans people, we can attest to that big time. I mean, being the caterpillar, and then you go into your cocoon, and then, the process takes place. And then before you know it, you're this beautiful butterfly, because who hates butterflies? I mean, they're just so beautiful and they just kind of flutter around. I mean, I'm sure there's some people in the world that do, but I think for the most part, butterflies are loved. And so if you look at nature, to me, it's a reflection. We human beings reflect a lot of the things in nature because we are a part of nature. So, like, even the whole transgender thing, the intersex thing, there are species in nature that are intersex. So, if this stuff is existing in the animal world, why wouldn't it exist in us human beings? Because we are a part of the animal world. But I think we separate ourselves, and oftentimes you don't really think about, like, wow. And so, yeah, I actually think, for me, the butterfly kind of represents trans people in a way, because of the whole metamorphosis, and then you become your authentic self fully. You're living your truth, and then you can kind of like just flutter around and be who you are, and be living your beauty. Oh, well, now there's another species, but it's magical. It's a magical species that a lot of people, well, a lot of people in the trans community, we call ourselves, and it's called oh Lord, unicorns. The unicorn syndrome, because it's like people, when they see us, it's like they're seeing a unicorn. Sometimes the way they react, because like it's almost like, oh my God, like, what is that? Like, so we joke in our community, in the trans community, that, like, it's the whole unicorn phenomena. Anyway, but
It's actually,
go ahead, go ahead.
the, I mean, the interesting thing that you mentioned was the whole unicorn thing, because I've been drawing unicorns since I was a child.
Oh, wow.
I draw them. I've been drawing them ever since I was a little kid, and painting and drawing unicorns, and with the wings. Some of the unicorns have wings and some of them don't. But it's interesting that you said that there's a correlation with unicorns and the trans community. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, it's this thing, like, because, like, a lot of times, like, well, people are getting more familiar with trans people, but even still today, sometimes I go places and I walk in, and, like, you can kind of see, like, people stop in their tracks. It's like, oh my God, a unicorn just walked in, that kind of thing. And especially, like, some years back, when people weren't as familiar with transgender, it was always that, like, oh my God, like, like, it's almost like you become like non-human to them. We're human beings too, but they're so taken by the whole gender metamorphosis that they're like, oh, Yeah. A unicorn. Oh my God, a unicorn.
Well, I mean, I can understand um, how seeing you would definitely make someone stop in their tracks.
Oh,
I can get that.
I don't know whether
I can understand.
I don't know whether I should slap you or kiss you on the cheeks for that. Is that a compliment or an insult?
No. It's not an insult, that's for sure. But I'm saying that um, when some people walk into a room, no matter what they're doing, they stand out,
Mhm.
or what they're not doing makes them stand out.
I
Not
kind of,
dissimilar,
yeah, I
not
kind of,
dissimilar to this guy right here in the corner.
yeah. I've kind of always had that about me. Even not in all the different looks I've had throughout my life, I've always had that kind of essence about me. Like when I go places, because I never forget when I was little. One time I asked my mom, "Mom," I said, "Mom, why is it when we go out in public, people always stare at me?" And I was like under 10, and and she's like, so to make me feel better, she says, "Well, if people are taking time out of their busy day to stop and look at you, that means you're special." So anyway, oh, Nancy, hello,
She
Steve.
agrees. She
I
agrees with you.
I love you, Nancy. Oh, I get a kick out of how they mark her though. Like on, like a Saturday Night Live and different things. They're like,
I think the best thing about all of this that's going on is that we can poke fun and be serious, but we can't underscore how important it is to hold somebody responsible. So, ironically, before the second impeachment happened, I had posted this on my page because I felt it in my head that it was going to come. So it's kind of really funny. And she's like, and I love Nancy. I can't help her. I mean, the good thing about it is Nancy's just Nancy. So what do you think about, they're talking about bringing in the Boring Company to make tunnels in Miami from Elon Musk?
oh wow, wow.
I'm just tossing that out there. Totally. I didn't give you no warning or nothing.
Yeah, no,
Did you
that's
hear about it?
yeah, no, that's okay. No, I'm just what it makes me think about where the world's going to be in 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, when you look at the history of our planet and the thousands and thousands of years that we human beings have been here on the planet, literally, this is how I describe it. We've gone from the caves to the computers, right? So
Yeah.
you know like especially in the last 100 years or so, we have gone warp speed with our advancement in technology and that sort of thing. So when I hear about the whole Elon Musk thing, I know I'm mispronouncing him, but his name. But when I hear about that, it makes me think, oh my God, like in my lifetime alone, I've seen so much manifest. I just can't even imagine if I'm still here, what the next 10, 20 years will bring. I think that it's like anything that's new, right? That whole new technology thing. There'll be people that are skeptical and scared of it, and it'll be that way until it's manifested, it's put to use, and it works well. Once it's around for a while, then people, it'll be like just like getting on a subway or getting on a plane or getting on a regular train or bus. But it's going to really take travel to like a whole other level here on this planet. And if you look at even electricity, Edison was trying to sell electricity to in New York. He started his electric company, and he was trying to get homes to get into electricity as opposed to oil. And people were scared. People were scared. They were like, oh no, to put these wires in your home, it could only create bad things, fires and all of that. And they were real skeptical. And then the oil company at that time, they played on the fears of people because they didn't want to lose the business, right? So they were like putting like rumors out there about, oh no, it's bad to get this electricity put in your home. And I mean, look at us now. I mean, we can't do anything really without electricity. When I say can't do anything, I mean it's like third world if you don't have electricity because everything runs on electricity. Refrigerator, air conditioning, computer, lights, all kinds. So think about it, like those people back then that were fearful. And let me tell you, Edison had to work for a number of years. I think for the first couple years, a few years, he only had 80 something customers in all of New York. That was like the max that he had until it started to grow and people became more comfortable with it, and the fear level went away. That the fear went away. I don't know though. I probably wouldn't get on an Elon Musk concoction to travel from here to Saudi Arabia or wherever, or Australia, in like an hour for a long time. I would have to see that this shit really works because that is some heavy duty technology we're talking about.
I mean, they're talking about doing it in Miami, so I guess it's something that was in the Twitter sphere, I guess, if that's the correct term to use, that they were text messaging each other back and forth, the city of Miami, and also Elon Musk talking about the Boring Company, which I think, to be honest with you, the name, the Boring Company,
it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing boring about that company.
No, but I'm just saying it's a funny name. It's such a funny name. It's the Boring Company because they're boring through the dirt. Yeah. I'm not a fan living in an area where we're only 6 or 7 feet above sea level, knowing that there's this gigantic device underneath us boring a hole to go somewhere, to put someone in their Tesla car to get them to go to their office when they could just work from home. I mean, I'm just saying, like, seriously, like, how about we do something with that Boring Company instead? How about we make some tunnels that it's free homeless shelters underneath? How about we do something else besides using the Boring Company to get people from point A to point B? How about we figure out a different way to do it? But I'm not a fan on digging stuff underneath us when we're so close to the ocean. What's going to happen when those people are inside of that tunnel and it floods?
Well, yeah, and this is the other thing. Like, I don't know. Okay, so that's one part of it. Doesn't he want to also have tubes and tunnels that you can get in and travel from, like, let's say America to Japan or America to Australia, like within hours? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can you imagine, the world is already close with all the air travel and things just going warp speed. Can you imagine if that is developed where someone could get on one of those concoctions, I'll call it, in Australia and be here in Miami like 4 hours later? That is some shit. I mean, and there'll be pros to it, but there'll also be cons to that. There'll also be cons to that. So, yeah, I totally see what you're saying. Like doing something like that where with the homeless to build like, you know, some sort of like shelter for them and stuff. But you know what it's all about. The world is run by money, and it's money driven. And this is all about money because can you imagine the billions of dollars this company will make if they have traveled in such a warp speed way? There'll be billions that they make.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, the other thing to bring up too, along with this technology thing, because I'm thinking, I've got all these thoughts in my head. The other one is about us having an actual settlement on the moon. This is something that's real. It's not just fiction anymore. It's something that's real. They're planning it, they're doing it, it's going to be done. And they're talking about digging into the moon to get natural resources out of the moon. Mm-hmm. Okay, so number one, there's many problems with this. So if we're going to take, let's say, iron out of the moon, that's going to change the weight of the moon. We're going to take the iron out of the moon. We're going to bring it down to planet Earth. It's going to change the weight of the moon, which will in turn make it come closer, right? So are these people so stupid that they're not even thinking about this? Or are they purposefully trying to do this?
I mean, I would hope that as scientists and researchers and engineers and all of that they would have this stuff in mind. I would hope so. But even with the whole thing of like, we're below sea level now here in South Florida. And I think they were even saying like in 100 years, this South Florida, well, actually the peninsula of Florida will be underwater, they were saying. I mean, I don't know how much, maybe some of it will, because it's all scientists predicting, so you don't really know for sure how it's all going to play out. But, like you think about these things, and I'm sure that doing that to the moon is going to have some sort of adverse effect on our planet, because the moon at night, it has an effect on the water, like our oceans, and the planet is more water than land, and so the ripple effect of that. Who knows what could happen? That's so true. That's so true.
I don't think that they're thinking about that, though, Raji. I don't think they're thinking about that. I think they're thinking about the resources part, and I think they're thinking about the money part, and that's part of the whole reason why when I say from our website, www.mysouthexposure.site, you can go to it and see. I say it's been on there the entire time. We have to put people before profits. That's the most important thing. We have to put people before profits. I want to make money. You want to make money. We want the people who watch the show to be able to make money. But I don't want people to make money because they're walking down the side of the street to go to McDonald's and then they get run over by a drunken driver, which unfortunately happened to somebody that we know this past week.
Oh my God.
So how important was that for you to go to work to McDonald's and you got run over by a drunken driver, and the drunken driver didn't even know that they hit you until the police showed up to your house, and then they had to bring you out to look at the car?
Ooh.
But I'm saying, like, people before profits. People before profits. If we put profits before people, then we're going to continue to have these exact same problems. Mm-hmm. it's not about money. And I mean, I'm wearing my little American Army insignia here, and part of that is an allegiance to my father, who died not that long ago, and also to my brother. So I get the idea of like the pageantry and paying homage to things, but we can't put our lives or make progress, I don't think, with humanity until we start to put people before money. I know it's hard to get that in your head, but we have to do that. If we don't do it, I don't see how we're going to be able to get past it unless there's going to be so much life loss that we're down to 2% of the population, which is part of my projections. And I shared that with you, which is scary, but it may very well turn into that, because if people don't have money to eat or drink, that's one problem. And people are fighting with each other, that's another problem. And then countries are killing each other, that's another problem. And then we have natural disasters, that's another problem. And then we have the COVID and the 5 or 6 different variants, that's another problem. There's so many different things that are all happening right now at the same time. And I think the reason why they are all happening is because profits have been put ahead of the value of people in this last 100 years.
But isn't it? That's right. The tug of war. The tug of war. I mean, that's always been a tug of war with I think in our humanity here, like people versus profit, profit versus people in some dynamic. I mean, slavery was putting profit against a race of people. You know, look at the pyramids. You think all those slaves that built those pyramids, right? You think that many of them like survived that? I mean, and that's going back thousands of years. So I think since the beginning of our humanity, on some level, that has been a tug of war. You know, like profiting off of people and doing things that hurt people knowingly. You knowingly know it's hurting people, but you're making a profit, and you and or whatever the group, you and your group are advancing. Meanwhile, this other group are being hurt by it. So yeah, very much so. I totally agree, but I don't think it's a today thing. I think it's a human thing, and you know this has been existing. It's just like on a different level now. It's like through our history in the world, it's always been there, but I think in different ways and on different levels.
What do you think that we can do in our little time that we're around, you and me, besides what we're already doing? Or what do you think we can advise other people to do at home that might be watching the show to give them some kind of motivation or advice, or to embolden them in a positive way to do something that will be helpful to other people?
Okay. So well, I think we're all a part of the grand scheme, right? And like a pebble in the pond, like you throw a pebble in the pond, you see the ripple effects. It's a tiny pebble, but the ripple effects are big, right? So picture us as little pebbles. All of us are our own little pebble, and we all can make our own impact in a big way, in small ways, in medium ways. We all have the ability to do that. And so what I would recommend to people is to first of all go within and figure out what it is that you feel you're here for. Like, what is your gift? What is the thing that you bring to the planet to offer and to give? And then find a way in your own community to impact it in positive ways. Like, okay, Joe Blow in Kansas City somewhere, right? Okay. I don't know him, you don't know him. Maybe he's not popular like online and doesn't have a big following. He's just a regular person in Kansas City somewhere, working and living their life. But there's something in him that says to him, you know what? I can do something to make a difference. Like I could do something in my own way. So then he figures out, well, you know, I've always wanted to, like, I don't know, work with the elderly, or work with children, or something, like figure out something that he's always wanted to do, or something that he's good at doing, and a way to use it to help people, right? Okay, so that, even though he's Joe Blow in this Kansas City area, he's not very well known. He's just going to a job, and pretty much, his family and his circle of friends know him. But he's going and he's giving of his time once a week for, let's say, a hospital. Like he's volunteering at a hospital in a cancer ward. All right, that that ripple effect that he's making, there's no way to know how far reaching that will be. Because let's say he's impacting a cancer patient that's in that hospital and he's touching their lives, right? Their family could be spread out all over the world, and that then impacts them. So, what I'm trying to say, and maybe that wasn't the greatest example, but I think you all get what I'm trying to say. It starts, first of all, within. Then you can then, with your family and friends, try to impact and do positive things, and then your community, and then and then it can go on and on and on, and the ripple effect, like the pebble in the pond, can be big. So when people say, oh, well, what can I do, I'm nobody, yeah, yeah, I know the feeling. Like, I sit here sometimes and wish I had the financial resources to do stuff like a Bill Gates, or a, what's the other rich one, uh the Facebook the owner of Facebook, or any of the rich ones, even the
Oh, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm having a mental block.
I actually text messaged. I actually text messaged him. I text messaged the fake book guy.
Yeah, but
Ironically,
but but but
yeah,
Steve Jobs, or whoever. But what I'm saying
yeah,
is, okay, so I don't have that resource. I don't have all that money to do it on the level that they're doing it. But I
yeah.
still found a way to use my life and my situation to still make an impact. And I continue to do that in different ways. So everyone, we all can. And you don't realize, I think many of us don't realize how far reaching your impact can be. So, yeah.
Actually, what you just looked at me when you said those words, and I felt them in my heart. The way that you just said that, Rashi,
Good.
I really did. I felt that. Like, if I didn't know better, I would have thought you were Puerto Rican with those eyes looking at me.
I have some Puerto Rican family.
I was just to say, because
I have Chinese family too, so I'm all over the place.
you are internationally known, that's for sure.
Internationally known. And I'm not to the microphone. Hey, I am.
Okay, so you said so much. I don't know which thing to pick up on first, but we're getting close to dinner time. It's 5:16. I'm starting to get a little hungry.
Me
I don't know
too,
if you're
honey.
hungry
I'm
or
a
not.
big girl, honey. I gotta feed myself.
I'm starting to get hungry. But that's the Facebook guy's name. I can't remember his name because I'm mad at him and I text messaged him. But I'm happy that he pulled the plug on that orange faced monster because I shared that with you, the text messaging that I was sending to him. How sad is that we can't, neither of us remember that name, and he's a billionaire.
I know.
How funny is that? Doesn't that actually tell you something? That tells me something.
I hope it's not telling me that I'm getting old and senile. But anyway.
No, I don't think it's doing that at all. Actually, I think it's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to, like, it doesn't matter what your name is. Like in life, your name doesn't matter. It matters what you do.
What you do.
It matters what you do and what you choose not to do. Because sometimes what you choose not to do has a lot bigger effect that's negative that could be positive because you choose to not pay attention. There was actually, I can't remember the name of the city, but some guy stole this person's car. The mom went into like a local grocery store out in the middle of Podunk somewhere. She left the kid in the car. First of all, bad idea. Guy stole the car and he drove off with the kid in the car, not knowing that the kid was in the car. I guess approximately a mile away, the kid started to make some noise. He pulls over. He takes the kid out in the carrier, the little car seat, and sets the kid on the side of the road. Like on the side of the road. A baby in a car carrier. But this what you were just saying directly correlates to this about doing something, about doing what you can. And 20 minutes passed where this kid, this baby, was sitting on the side of the road. 6 people drove past this baby. No one stopped except for a UPS driver. UPS driver just doing his job. Stops, gets out of his car, gets out of the truck, walks up to the baby, and saves the baby's life. So doing exactly what you just said, we each have to do our own part. You have to do something. You can't not do anything because a lot of people don't do anything. A lot of people don't pay attention. Like the other day, Rick and I were driving and I noticed one of the local people in the neighborhood, and I could feel in my heart that this person needed help. And I saw him, and we see him all the time, and we do whatever we can to help him. And I pulled over and I got out of the car. Just I said to Rick, I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. It looks like he needs help. And then we helped him. So it's like you have to do things. You can't just walk down the street and not look. You can't just drive past and not look around, or jump in a canal if you have to.
And like you did, exactly, and help that woman and her dog. I mean, sometimes doing something just means smiling at someone or holding the door for somebody. Like, like we can all walk around in our own zones, angry and like closed off. And I'm not saying that every person you come in contact with, you're going to help. But at the same time, having an open heart, like an open spirit, and just being able to like be open enough to like have that humanity to touch one another. I mean, you smile, you don't know even your smile, how far reaching that can be, because that person that you smile with and you show an act of kindness to, you don't know what that person was going through that day. That person might have wanted to commit suicide that day. But because you took a second, just a second, to nod your head. And now we have the mask, so we can't smile. A lot of times people don't even know you're smiling. But just what I'm saying is being kind, like, that kind energy, holding the door. You know how many times I've walked somewhere and the person sees me coming and they just let the door slam, but then there's people that hold it for me. And when the person holds the door, that's like a good feeling. You're like, and I'm so thankful. And I'm like, oh, thank you. So what I'm saying is you oftentimes won't even realize how much you can touch someone's life and how far reaching it will be by just a simple act of kindness. Okay?
Yeah.
Just a simple act of kindness. And that's not complicated to do. Come on.
No. No, it's not.
That's not.
Yeah, it's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's not complicated at all. It's really simple. But I mean, now we're to the point where we can actually discuss being kind. The last 4 years has been hate, 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 hate. So now we're coming back to reality, which I'm not saying everything's going to be perfect. Like it's, a golden goose with the golden egg and everything's going to work smoothly. But it's one of those things where now we're getting to the point where we can start to think like we used to.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, that was not an option before. So I mean, something as simple as just calling somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
Or text messaging someone and saying that you love them, just totally out of the blue. Just, I love you.
And I think what happens is one can build, like you start simple, like just with your circle of people, like your family and your friends, your neighborhood. And then maybe you get it in your heart to like go a step further. Oh, maybe I can drop off some clothes to a homeless shelter, or take this, some food to a homeless shelter. What I'm saying is like, you can start off simple and then build upon it, So, even for me, like with me doing my activism and advocacy, initially it was just here locally in South Florida, predominantly the Miami area, because at the time I was living in Miami. But as time went on, the ripple effect just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then the chain of events allowed me to, eventually touch and impact the world in some way, because I hear from people, I mean, not the whole world, not everyone, not 7.5 billion people. No, of course not. But I do hear from people around the world that have been touched by my story or by my essence, and say that I bring them joy. Someone in Africa or Venezuela or Australia. And even here when we do the show, Joseph and I, we get feedback. And so there's different ways to do it and touch people. And I'm just saying, like, we're passing through. We're all just passing through. Like, don't you want to just live the most optimal life you can live, and just leave that? Because when you die, when anyone dies, when we go to anyone's funeral, we don't think about the clothes they wore, the car they drove, the house they lived in. Maybe we think about it a little bit, but what do we think about it the most? What do we think about the most? We think about how that person touched our lives, how that person made you feel. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that. And I see Joseph is praying.
Well,
he's in prayer mode.
No,
He's like, oh, I'm checking like
I wasn't in prayer mode. I was just.
Oh, I'm checking like oh.
I was agreeing with you, and Nancy was over here clapping.
Oh, thank you,
Nancy.
Because
she agrees.
Thank you, Nancy. You love
Nancy's
me.
clapping.
You love me, Nancy. And Burn.
And feel the burn.
Hi, Burn. Hi, Burn.
Bernie's here.
Can I rub your head?
He's been here the whole show, just sitting on my shoulder. I know it sounds silly to do that, but it felt like everybody else was doing the Bernie thing. So I had to chime in with my little 2 cents. So I want to re-thank all of our close to 90,000 viewers who have watched our little show. I want to thank you, Raji Narayan Singh, for doing this again, taking time out of your day, I should say, making time out of your day to do the show with us together, I should say. Season number 3, show number 2, it's in the can. And I'm sure it's going to get us continue to get better and better. That's for sure. I think that they said something about they're pushing stuff through for new stimulus thing. Just to close things out.
$1,400. That would be lovely.
That's what I heard. $1,400, and I think that they're supposed to do it quickly, apparently, which would be nice. I mean, because the last one, the second, like the re-up, took a while.
Yeah.
Like we didn't get ours until like 7 months after everybody else did, and then we got the second one, instantly, which was nice to be able to get it. So, I mean, but the thing is, like, even that little teeny tiny amount of money, because if you average it out, you're talking about like $25 a week. Like if you add the first stimulus and the second stimulus together, and then you actually spread it out over the entire time that we've all been pretty much on lockdown, you're not talking about a lot of money. So it would be nice if we can get this new one. I think it would definitely be helpful, and I think that it should probably go through pretty smoothly. But not to talk about politics per se, but like the Republicans and Democrats fighting, it's like seriously, give me a break. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about people fighting and arguing about stuff. Like, how about you get no money? For a month. Let's see how about we make it, I think actually, to be honest with you, just like what I had mentioned to you, because I'm working on this stuff for a small business loan for our business. I love the idea that it's $15 an hour that's the new minimum wage. I think that's great. How about the people that are politicians make $15 an hour?
Yeah, I know.
If it's good enough for you and me, why should they get so much money?
I know.
Seriously. I mean, I find it hypocritical and silly, and I don't even know, pedantic, I think is the correct word. And you're gonna have to Google that word, pedantic. But I'm sick and tired of it. Like seriously, let's get. Oh, she's pulling it up, pedantic.
Pedantic. It sounds like pull on the dick. Now let me stop. Pedantic.
Oh my goodness gracious. See what it says, because I might have used the word incorrectly.
Pedantic.
But I believe.
Here's the definition of pedantic.
Of or like a pedant.
What did it say?
It says of or like
What?
a pedant. Many of the essence are long, dense, and too pedantic to hold great appeal.
Actually, that's correct then. The word that I used was absolutely correct, because that's politicians are pedantic. That's absolutely correct. They are pedantic. I want to thank everybody for watching at home. If you want to work for us, we would love to have you work for us, work at MySouthernExposure.site. If you want to advertise, which would be nice for me to get some lip injections, maybe, or get my face filled or something, that's advertise at MySouthernExposure.site. You already look beautiful, just like you are, but actually the way that you just pulled your face, oh my goodness.
I'm gonna get a face.
Oh my! Holy cow! It was quite funny to see that. That was so hysterical. If you want to get a hold of Raji, it's Raji at mysouthernexposure.site, or if you want to get a hold of me, Joseph at mysouthernexposure.site as well. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching the show, and I'm going to leave it to Raji to give her blessings.
Well, I want to thank everyone again for watching the show. I hope you enjoyed all our juicy topics, and looking forward to next week, and we'll have more juicy topics for you because the juice never stops flowing, honey. So on that note, I just want to say, take time out to do something kind this week, okay? Take time out to be a little kind, and you'll see how the law of attraction works, because what you put out, you get back, honey. So on that note, I want to wish everyone love, happiness, peace, good health, prosperity, and many wonderful blessings. We all love you, Nancy, Bernie, Joseph, and me. Bye. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. Oh my God.